No one imagined Hollywood's immortal legend would script his own haunting finale. Gene Hackman's last moments weren't peaceful. They were filled with an eerie torment. His passing wasn't a quiet farewell to age, but a deliberate act where he played every role: the protagonist, the victim, and the accomplice to fate itself. His grand Santa Fe mansion became more than just a home. It turned into a mental prison. Love, isolation, and something unseen consumed him. His farewell wasn't a handwritten note, but a secret recording, where his voice, frail and broken, carried a cryptic message. But who made him say those words? Was it devotion, control, or something far more sinister? Since his retirement in 2004, Hackman disappeared from Hollywood's gaze. No interviews, no retrospectives, just silence. He and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, lived in near isolation in their Santa Fe estate, eerily nicknamed the Silent Mansion. Locals whispered about his seclusion. Was he writing a final memoir, recording a goodbye, or had Betsy severed his last ties to the world? Then came a chilling clue. In 2023, a plumber working in the mansion spotted something on Hackman's desk. An old tape recorder with a note attached. Final words, private. No one knew what was on that tape, or if it even existed. Not long after, Hackman withdrew even further. He canceled medical checkups, ignored old friends, and refused to respond to Hollywood's inquiries. When a journalist reached out, they received only a cryptic three-word note: "Let me be." Betsy, his wife, remained silent. No interviews, no public appearance, only whispers that she alone knew the truth. But the timing of that recording raised disturbing questions. Had Hackman sensed the end was near? Or had the Silent Mansion become his prison, trapping him inside a past he couldn't escape? The final photos of Hackman reveal a frail man staring into the vast New Mexico sky. No spotlight, no applause, just a fading figure in the desert silence. And somewhere in the Silent Mansion, that recording remains a mystery, a missing piece of his story. The final pact, love or captivity. For over 30 years, Hackman and Betsy lived away from the world, their love appearing unshakable. But behind closed doors, their bond carried something deeper, something darker, something the world would one day call the final pact. Betsy Arakawa wasn't just Gene Hackman's wife. She was his anchor, his last tether to stability in a world that had given her nothing but loss. When they met in the 1980s, her love for him wasn't about fame or fortune. It was something else. Something as if losing him meant losing herself. Their love was breathtaking, but it was also suffocating. Hackman's old friends noticed the change. Calls went unanswered, invitations ignored, and then, one day, he was simply gone. "I didn't leave Hollywood," he once said. "I just wanted to belong somewhere else." That somewhere was beside Betsy. He traded the world for the comfort of her gaze, but comfort came at a price. Friends whispered that Betsy's love wasn't just devotion, it was possession. Fearful of losing him, she controlled every part of his life. Even his 3 children from his first marriage seemed to fade from view. Their calls grew rare. Their letters went unanswered. No one accused Betsy outright, but no one denied her influence over Gene's choices. Then came the most chilling whisper of all, the final pact, a life or death agreement between them. The details were murky, but fragments of stories painted a grim picture. A vow that if one passed, the other wouldn't be left behind. It wasn't romance. It wasn't loyalty. It was a contract. And then there was the bottle. Betsy allegedly kept a vial of strong sedatives in her bedside drawer. Hackman, who had never suffered from insomnia, took them for years. At night, strange murmurs filled the mansion, half-heard conversations, unfinished words. They weren't fighting, an old friend once said, but it sounded off, like they were planning something neither of them wanted to admit. Was the final pact real? And if it was it love or was it fear? Outside, Santa Fe remained quiet, the desert wind carrying the scent of dry earth and burnt grass. But inside the Silent Mansion, time moved differently, slower, heavier, colder. Had Betsy been Hackman's salvation, or had she been his captor? And Hackman, a man who once played Hollywood's strongest characters, Had he become a prisoner in his own marriage? The house at the end of the slope, once a refuge, had become a vault of secrets, and at the heart of every whispered rumor was the greatest mystery of all, the final recording. No one knew if it was real, but its legend outlived Gene Hackman himself. Those who stepped inside the silent mansion before that fateful day whispered of something hidden, a secret he tried to take to his grave, a confession, a plea. "If you find this, I'm sorry." That was believed to be the first line. No explanation, no destination, just a trembling voice. No longer Lex Luthor, no longer a Hollywood giant, but a man weighed down by his own fate. When authorities entered the mansion, after a delivery driver reported no response, they found something chilling. Everything was too perfect. The dining table was set for two. Two glasses sat half full, as if waiting for an unseen guest. And in the center of it all, an old tape recorder, placed delicately on a pile of untouched white napkins. The machine wasn't running. The memory card was wiped clean. But in the final investigation report, one eerie detail stood out. At the bottom of the recorder, caught in the crevices of the plastic casing, was a single silver hair. Former staff members recalled that, after turning 90, Hackman had taken to voice journaling. His hands trembled too much to write, so he recorded his thoughts, scattered memories of Hollywood, of Betsy, of a life spent in both brilliance and shadow. And then, one day, he stopped. Betsy was the one who put the recorder away, locking it inside the bedroom safe. What had he said in those last recordings? What had been erased? And most haunting of all, who had the final say in Gene Hackman's story? "It's better this way," Betsy Arakawa once said. No one knew what she meant. Then the house went silent. Some believed Leslie Hackman, Gene's daughter, had the final recording. A farewell? A warning? An accusation? She never said. But inside the silent mansion, everything remained unnervingly pristine, like a stage waiting for its final scene. For weeks, the house was silent. No calls, no visitors. Security cameras cut out at 5:32 p.m. on February 14th. Phones off. Internet disconnected. Gene wasn't dying, but his medical records told another story. Sedatives, painkillers, enough for the terminally ill. When police entered, nothing made sense. A locked door, sealed curtain, a cold cup of tea. Upstairs, Betsy's piano room had changed. A white-covered table, a list of songs, a pill organizer, 2 sealed envelopes. This wasn't sudden. It was planned. Leslie arrived first. She whispered, Betsy controlled everything. His medications, his visitors, his thoughts. Leslie once believed it was love, but old notes told a darker story. Gene shouldn't watch the news too long. Gene should avoid stressful people. Gene should take this, not that. By 2019, Gene was a shadow of himself. His words echoed Betsy's scripts. "Betsy told me," he murmured. Later, Leslie found instructions on how to help him pass peacefully. Did Gene choose his final moment? Or did Betsy decide for him? The mansion remains untouched. Neighbors call it the Whispering House. Midnight footsteps, doors opening and closing, faint voices in empty rooms. Leslie never sold it. She visits once a year, but never enters. "I hear him," she said. "Not a voice, just something." No one has heard the final recording, except Leslie. Was it a goodbye? A confession? She only said, "Some secrets should be buried with the departed." The house still stands. Filmmakers reported corrupted footage. And when the sun sets, its doors don't just close. They seal a mystery with no ending.